23 U.S. senators have accused Canada of freeloading and not living up to their NATO obligations. Good evening and welcome to my channel. I hope you're having a great day. Well, I saw this article a few days ago, but I was traveling and wasn't able to respond. This week, Senator Cruz, Senator Mitt Romney, and several other senators and congresspeople in the United States sent Trudeau a letter urging him and Canada to live up to its obligations under a NATO treaty. Canada agreed to spend 2% of its GDP on defense, but we are falling far short of that. Canada is currently spending 1.33% of its GDP on defense, and they have no plan on increasing that to the 2% that is required by the end of this year, 2024. Instead, they have a plan to get us to 1.7% of our GDP by the end of 2029. That's 0.3% too little and 5 years too late. Most other nations are either at the 2% of their GDP spending on defense, or they have a plan to get to 2%. But Canada does not. And what does Trudeau do in response to this? Well, he blames Harper, of course. He says Harper was even below 1%. He doesn't take into consideration, of course, that conservative governments are always faced with fixing the economic damage that their previous liberal governments have done. I think it's pathetic that Canada has taken advantage of NATO and the US for as long as we have. We should be a nation that can defend itself, but we can't. Canadians have long lived with the realization that our spending on defense is substandard. Our equipment is deteriorating and it's aged. I've even heard reports that if Canada were to be attacked, we would run out of ammunition within a matter of days. Recruitment is at an all-time low, and with attrition, we can't fill the positions we have. And yet, Trudeau gives what little we have to the Ukraine and to Israel and to all sorts of other nations all over the world. And while it is important for the good guys to win in those conflicts, we have to get our own house in order first. If we can't defend ourselves, why does Trudeau think that it's a good idea to send our money and our assets to other nations all over the world? The truth is, if the United States and the UN would stop supporting these other conflicts, they would be over quite soon, saving tens of thousands of lives. The Ukraine and Russia had a peace deal worked out 2 years ago, but President Biden put an end to that because it wasn't in America's best interest. And if we would stop interfering in Gaza, the Israeli armed forces would go in and settle the issue. They would take out the last remaining Hamas stronghold, saving tens of thousands of lives. And back at home, Trudeau sends billions of dollars overseas to useless programs. He just sent an ungodly amount of money to a 2S LGBTQIA+ international organization. For what? He's also taking on parenting responsibilities with programs that make Canadians more reliant on the state, and he's spending money supplying products to large voter groups who should be paying for these products themselves. And then there's the waste of money disarming law-abiding Canadians. He's already spent $42 million and not a single firearm has been confiscated. And yet he continues to fund other nations, sending money, ammunition, and hardware to those nations to fight their wars. What is his plan? Is he going to take the AR-15 he steals from me and give it to people of the Ukraine? And then what? What if we ever do get invaded? There would be nobody left to man the Canadian resistance to try and bring us back to a free nation, because all of our guns and ammunition will have been seized by the government and sent overseas, and possibly even wind up in the hands of people who are invading us. What if we send all of our arms over to the Ukraine? They get captured by Russia. Russia wins the war and then decides, you know what? We're just going to keep on invading. Many Canadians feel that, well, nobody would ever invade us because the U.S. would come to our aid, and maybe they would. But do you want to live in a freeloading nation that can't even protect itself, that has to rely on others? I think that's pathetic. And what if Donald Trump is reelected in November? It looks like he may be. Well, he's planned on either pulling out of NATO altogether because of all the freeloading nations, or having a multi-tiered level of protection, with Canada probably being near the bottom of that tier, because we cannot defend ourselves and we are not reaching our obligations. So what if Canada was invaded and the US had to come to our aid? Two things might result from that. We may either be forced to join the United States, which may be a blessing in disguise, but that's for another video, or we'd be in so much debt to the United States that we would never be able to pay it off. We would essentially become a third world nation, giving all of our natural resources to the United States and getting no benefit. Some would say we already are doing that, but that's also for another video. I'm embarrassed that Canada has elected socialists for so long that we can't defend ourselves, and Canadians are so reliant on the government that they aren't self-sufficient. They have caused us to be in so much debt we can't even live up to our international obligations. Trudeau doesn't have any plan to meet our 2% obligation, but he also has no plan to balance the budget and get us out of debt. I think our only option is to keep pressure on the Canadian government to call an early election. You can help with that. I put a link in the description and in the pinned comment below where you can follow, and it'll bring you to a petition that encourages Mary Simon, the Governor General, to do her job, dissolve Parliament, and call an early election. But that's my opinion. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Put your comments below in the comment section. Civil discourse is always welcome. And while you're down there, please don't forget to like this video, share with your friends, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you in the next video.